What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing my top 5 defensive linemen slash outside linebackers heading into the 2023 NFL season. So this list includes all defensive linemen, defensive tackles, and defensive ends, and outside linebackers. Now, outside linebackers are different from middle linebackers. In a 3-4 scheme, outside linebackers are rushing the passer and they line up on the line a lot more. And if they're in a 4-3 scheme, they're more in coverage. So I am going to include the outside linebackers in this list, or at least in consideration of this list. So without further ado, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, I have Myles Garrett. Now, Myles Garrett is coming off of back-to-back 16-sack seasons, and with 50-plus tackles in each of those seasons. Myles Garrett, since he's entered the league in 2017, has been a game wrecker for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I was in a really tough debate whether to put him 5th or put TJ Watt 5th. Spoiler alert, TJ Watt is not on this list, and he was really the only outside linebacker in consideration, so that kind of reveals all my guys on this list are strictly defensive linemen, even though I would have put an outside linebacker, but the only one, like I said, was TJ Watt. But the reason I ultimately edged Myles Garrett in him versus the Watt, two guys who often get compared a lot because they're within the same division. They were drafted in the same draft class. I ultimately chose Myles Garrett mainly because of health. I think TJ Watt in 2021 had 22.5 sacks, and I think TJ Watt might be the better overall player because he can help in run support a little bit better, and he can play in coverage a bit. Myles Garrett definitely can't play in coverage. But the thing is, TJ Watt has been very injury prone, while Myles Garrett has been very consistent in terms of being able to play for the Cleveland Browns. And I am a big believer in not being able to play. It has to count against you. I get that it's a part of the game, but it also should be part of the evaluation. And that's why I am going to have Myles Garrett edge TJ Watt, coming in at 5th. Coming in at number 4, I have Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones is coming off of a season where he tied his career high back in 2018. He had 15.5 sacks this year. Chris Jones has been a very great player for the Kansas City Chiefs over the last few years. He's been to 4 straight Pro Bowls. He was a first-team All-Pro this season, a second-team All-Pro the 2 seasons prior to that. Jones is mainly at the D-tackle position. The Chiefs have flirted with him on the edge at times, but he's best when he's at D-tackle, and he really came through for this Chiefs team during their playoff run. He didn't have any sacks in the divisional round game, but he had 2 crucial sacks in the AFC Championship game, which may have been the difference in that game. And in the Super Bowl, he was able to get some good pressures on the Eagles. At times, Chris Jones has had to be a one-man wrecking crew for this Kansas City Chiefs team, and he played 80% of the snaps in 2022 for the Chiefs. That is very impressive. He plays a lot on that defensive line. All right, yeah. Not much else can be said about Chris Jones. Just a very important player to this Chiefs front, and I think he really did prove himself as one of the better guys of this era this past season. Now here I think we kind of enter a new tier of defensive linemen here. I think these top 3 are the, I think, undisputed top 3, and I think it's going to be pretty hard. It was really hard to rank these top 3, so let's move along here. Coming in at number 3, I have Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald's one of the best football players of all time. I mean, in all 9 seasons of his career, he's been to the Pro Bowl. He's been one Defensive Player of the Year 4 out of those 9 years. He's been a first-team All-Pro every single year except this past year. This was the first time in his career he was not a first-team All-Pro, which is insane. He already has over 100 sacks in his career. Now, Aaron Donald missed a lot of time this year. He only played in 11 games, so he missed 6. Led him to only having 5 sacks, which I do penalize for not being injured and for being injured. And but he's just that guy. You still have to have him this high up, and I think if not for him being injured, if he would have been able to repeat a similar season, staying healthy as 2021, I think I would have had him number 1 still. I think Aaron Donald should be able to bounce back this year. I understand he's only getting older, but I think if he can stay healthy, he will still be that same guy this upcoming year. There's no reason to believe that he can't be. I mean, he had one of his best seasons in his career in 2021, 12.5 sacks. That was his last full season. And he's the guy that you can play all over the defensive line. He can play at D tackle. He can play on the end. I think he's best when he's on the edge. A clear path to more of a clearer path to the quarterback. Moving on to number 2, I have Micah Parsons, who in his first 2 years in the league, he has taken the league by storm. A lot of comparisons to Lawrence Taylor within his first 2 years because of the play style and just the way of playing. Now, Micah Parsons has been able to do everything so far in his first 2 years. He's been able to be a great run stopper, a great pass rusher. He's played in coverage a bit. I mean, he was drafted as a middle linebacker. This upcoming season, Parsons is officially going to just be a defensive end at all times and just be, on the end, not worry about being in coverage. He's going to put all his focus into that, which I think is interesting. Some people, don't like that move because they feel like he should be utilized as in many different ways as possible, and others do like it. The way I see it is, sure, you would like to utilize him as in many ways as possible, but I think he's at his best when he's rushing the passer, and I think that might be the most important thing on the defensive side of the ball. So why take him out of the play at his best and put him in coverage, something that, sure, he's good at for his position. He's good at being in coverage for a outside linebacker who mainly rushes the passer. But if you really just compare him to someone who actually specializes in that, he's not that great. So you might as well just put him where he's best at. And I think that's what the Cowboys are doing. I think it's pretty smart. This past season, Micah Parsons had 13.5 sacks. The season before, he had 13 sacks. His first 2 years in his career, he's been a first-team All-Pro, a Pro Bowler, and Defensive Rookie of the Year the year prior. He has 6 forced fumbles in these first 2 seasons. Yeah, he's a game wrecker, and he easily could be number 1 on this list. But Micah Parsons is already on a Hall of Fame track. Now, coming in at number 1, I have Nick Bosa. Bosa, he has been in the league now for 4 years. This will be his 5th year. He's already kind of entering his prime years. He's no longer, a young player, if you will. His first 4 years, he's been to the Pro Bowl 3 of the 4 years. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And this past season, he won Defensive Player of the Year along with a first-team All-Pro. He's the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and I think that's a great indicator for him to be number 1. I mean, Nick Bosa, I think, is the best pure pass rusher in the NFL. Is he the best overall defensive player? I think him and Parsons have it's a great discussion to have because, like I mentioned earlier, Parsons can do a little bit more, I think, than Bosa can. But now that Parsons is fully going into full pass rushing, I think you got to just strictly compare them by that, and I think Bosa takes the cake when it comes to that. Bosa had 18.5 sacks this past season, 15.5 sacks the season before that. In 2020, he only played in 2 games, so he had 0. And in his rookie year, he had 9 sacks. So Bosa has 43 sacks within his first 4 years. But if you eliminate 2020, he has 43 sacks in the span of 3 years, which is very, very impressive. He's also on a Hall of Fame track right now. He's an absolute monster for the San Francisco 49ers. I have him coming in at number 1. Comment down below what you guys think about this. I think this may have been the toughest list to make so far. But yeah, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on it. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.